Hello again. Still the same weekend, different opportunities, different wines. This is a Chateauneuf du Pape by Le Clos du Caillou, and it's the Quartz bottling, which we have discussed in the past because we have had we've tasted together a bottle of the 2001 Quartz, and I think at the time that was for Thanksgiving last year, and I think at the time I talked about the property, I talked about the background a little bit. I also talked about the 1999 Quartz that I had also a little before that I had really loved. These are wines that I had bought on auction, older wines that you can sometimes find, and I just enjoyed that so much that I started buying some of the more recent vintages, hoping to keep them for a while. Um, and we'll talk a little bit about this. This is a little bit of a funny story. I ordered the Côte du Rhône Quartz 2018 by Clos du Caillou because they have the Clos du Caillou. There's Quartz and there's Reserve. Reserve is a lot more expensive, a lot more exclusive. It's a different kind of history behind it. And they both also have Côte du Rhône. There's a Côte du Rhône Quartz and a Côte du Rhône Reserve. So it gets a little bit confusing. Anyway, when I ordered the Côte du Rhône, which is less than half the price of these wines, I got these instead. So I'm not complaining, but I only found out after I opened the bottle because it was really in my Côte du Rhône bin. So I am enjoying it, but now I still don't have the Côte du Rhône, which would have been a different kind of enjoyment, I think, because we've had, again, it's a different level of being ready, for these wines and developing and what have you. And I like both the Chateauneuf du Pape and the Côte du Rhône. Anyway, so this is on the color. It's still very bright. I mean, it's really it's not. The older wines had really sort of become a little paler and a little bit more bricked. This is much more alive. This is this is a lot of Grenache in this particular bottling, the Quartz and old vines, and you're gonna have that color. Now on the nose, it's just an incredibly fruity nose and a little bit of flower. So it's got lots of raspberry, which is not something I detect often. It's got lots of crushed blueberry, the kind of stuff maybe you feed in a jam. It's got some cassis, it's got some kirsch alcohol, on the nose. It's really and almost a little faint, like rose water, sort of just a little bit of a whiff on that. But maybe I'm confused because there's so much going on. Anyway, very young, very fruit forward, just very calling to you, so to speak, which is very different from the older ones we tasted together. Those were much more Burgundian, much more earthy, just very subtle. You really have to coax the thing out of it, but it's just delightful because it's just so clear and clean. This is, young. Maybe it will become like this in 20 years, but this is the interesting thing about drinking the same wine from the same domain, similar maybe climatic conditions or what have you, but a different stage of their evolution. And I wouldn't have opened this really this early if I hadn't thought that it was a Côte du Rhône. So it's interesting to force myself to enjoy it. Again, all the stuff I discussed in the nose, this mix of red fruit, almost different textures of the different fruits, all mixed in at the same time. Even the alcohol tastes more like a fruit alcohol, like I said, like a liqueur de cassis maybe, or some kirsch or something like that. So just a very, very powerful, but also appealing because of the sweetness and the fruit. And it's a nice finish. The finish, you get the alcohol and the fruit on the finish at the same time. So you still get a little bit of that mix even after you finish swallowing it. Again, fruit, fruit, fruit. Now, it's very enjoyable. I love it. But if that's what it's going to taste like now, and in, let's say, 5-6 years, it's going to develop some of the other tones we discussed, with more earthy, a little bit more balance on both sides and all that, then I think I'm going to enjoy it more in 5-6 years. So it's going to be interesting to see. And now I have enough of those to maybe try one every few years and then see the evolution. And I think this is something that it's going to take a while, but I'm going to learn a lot. Anyway, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and see you soon.